Yeah.
The first one's when they did vocabulary.
So do you want me to do the first one?
Yeah.
Okay,
That was September 6th.
thank you. All right, so I'll do that September 6th. You got it. Perfect. I'll work on that this week.
I had to spend some time with our friend Navion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. I have a soft spot for him in a fun way.
I do too.
You're good with him. So, celebrations. You know, I saw you kind of create the shared learning targets. I love the way you've added them to your planning, and that we'll go through the checklist again, but they're student-based, student-friendly and based on the content standard. And then you're circulating, answering questions, which is very middle school appropriate. And versus having a small group with middle schoolers, it's nice when you go and talk with them and try to help them understand the new vocabulary and using the exit ticket to support evidence. And I did want to ask you a little bit more about how that came out.
Okay. I shared it to you as collaborator access.
Okay.
In case you wanted to see specific answers, but I also have the answers just separately.
Yeah. Can you kind of summarize for me what you saw or how that came out for you?
In that period, it seemed like rushed, which is odd for third block to be rushed over second, but third block was have an off day. The majority, so I only got 40 answers between 2 periods. I should have had 50.
How many did you have?
I had 40.
Okay, 40 out of 50.
Actually do it.
Okay.
I should have had 50 something.
Okay.
So of the 40, over half said they were a 3 or 4, that they thought that they met the ticket or met the standard objective target.
And what did you think?
I mean, I think that line they seemed like there were lots of heads nodding and stuff during instruction, so I think that they did that. I'm trying to remember what. Oh, it was documents. Okay, they did. So during lesson, they seemed, I don't know if they were just unfocused or if the documents were dense. They seemed to have a hard time. Some of them seemed to have a hard time reading the documents for comprehension. And each of the documents had some guiding questions with them, but I was still having to help a lot of kids decipher the questions within the documents. But even given that, like most of them still said that they could explain the impact of the printing press. Like they understood that the printing press was important in that time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you some questions about that. Did you feel like the lesson went as planned, or would you?
Mostly, yeah.
What would you have done differently the part that wasn't?
What I would have done differently is actually what I'm doing for my formal, and printed the documents and not had them use the website, because they're from DBQ Online, that the district gave me, and it seems easier to just scroll. Oh yeah, I read it, but so what I am changing next week is that for this a different prompt they're gonna have
Hard
paper,
copy. Okay.
and those documents are less dense.
Yeah.
They're short. Like there's a chart, there's a map, there's less reading than these other one that we did online. Yeah.
And what is your thinking about how to do that differentiation with students when there is a lot of reading in social studies?
Front load the vocabulary, which I'll do on Tuesday. Front load the vocabulary, and I'm not really sure what else, because I don't want to summarize it for them when it's already pretty short or it's a map. So I can't really summarize it for them because they've got to do it. So I'm going to be looking, on Monday I'm going to look at the vocabulary and pick out what I'm pretty sure would be new to most kids or a lot maybe to scaffold.
Right, and that's something that we can work on together too, is like how to get, like there's a lot of abstract concepts, but like how to get some visuals as well with that front loading, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I like that you're front loading it, but I think front loading and providing visuals is going to be critical. Also, I'm wondering about, you don't want to do the thinking work for them, but is there a way like to have various Lexile levels of different?
On this one, no.
Okay,
No, this one does have some of their documents in Spanish
okay,
online. I don't know if they have it printed. I'd have to look in the folder. But no, this one doesn't adjust for levels.
okay.
But in looking at these documents, they aren't. I think they're less language loaded.
Because I'm thinking like, how do we pair students strategically, or how do we help a emerging bilingual student like navigate using, or even I'm thinking actually back to Navion's class where you have a really diverse group of learners with language and literacy needs, and how do we get them to access the content and the reading when they're could be struggling with reading, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm gonna pull up the documents that I'm gonna use. So it's about the topic is the fall of Rome. And it's what are the primary reasons for the fall of Rome, and so today they went through like video stations of other civilizations and like quick little TED Ed animated videos of why like the Byzantine Empire fell and why the Mongol Empire fell, and so and they had to we did closed notes, so they had to fill in the blanks like invasion, disease, fighting over inheritance. And so on here, there's a background essay. So we're gonna read this whole class out loud with me stopping. Like I'll define some of this stuff in here, and I'll include pictures, and then depending on time, we might do like the comprehension for the background essay, but I'm not sure on time. But then it's got, like the first document's a chart, so one group will get this chart. So I will probably have to define this word, assassination. That's what most of them are.
Yeah, because almost like part of our work can be like looking at through the lens of students who can't access the words right now. How do they, if you're not succeeding in reading, how do you access this assignment? Because there's no pictures, there's no clues, unless I'm a reader.
Yeah, and so for including the picture, like having the word with the, like basically having a Freyer model almost, would I like leave those on the screen? Because they're all gonna have there's 6 different documents. Like each group's only reading one instead of everybody having to read all. And I think that was also an issue, was that there were 5 documents that every student had to read through individually, and that may have just been overwhelming.
No, that's too many.
And so this one we're just doing everybody's getting one with a group. You're alternating reading.
I wonder, like, you mentioned the FAIR model, but like, what if there is they have something here, but then they have something here, where they have the FAIR model to look at while they're reading, so they have something in front of them to associate. I don't know, that's a possibility.
If it weren't out Monday, then I could, I would do a print like first thing Tuesday morning.
You know what I'm saying? So then they have, because it's like being really strategic about how they can.
Or I can make it as a Freyer on Google Slides like Navion's class did, and say, and block. I know how to use GoGuardian to my advantage to block out literally everything else and allow this specific item to be open on your computer and say, pull these up as you come to it, assassination, and you're like, what does that mean? Click, maybe I can do it that way. It'll be faster, and then the pictures will be in color.
Yeah. So you do what you think is right, but I feel like they need to know where they can find those words to be able to pull into it. Yeah, I would definitely make the vocabulary accessible, if that makes sense.
There's map. Another reading one. Another. What is this? Oh, about the Huns. So there are only 2 documents that are not reading heavy.
Because like, yeah, if I'm looking at that and I'm not reading, it just looks like a lot of black and white to me. So I also think like maybe we can talk about purposefully pairing students too,
Mhm.
so that somebody who's more confident at reading can help a student who's still has the cognitive understanding, but it's just this is impairing them from accessing it.
And then when I pass them out, it's wink, wink, random, but it's not actually. Like they think it's randomly, but it's not. It's not.
Okay.
Because then you're going to be with, all of the ones that have the green document are together. So I'll put,
Yeah.
I'll have Denovan
Yes.
with
Yes.
Jamie
Right.
and Zaylin
Right.
and like
Right.
a couple of strong ones. And I did Kagan like 6 years ago, where you do the high, middle, and the low, and the low,
Yes,
middle, and the
yes.
high at certain parts of the table.
Bingo.
I just haven't used it in so
Yeah,
long.
but that I pulled that out because how you seat them strategically is another way too, like how you pair them and where they are. That also helps you when you're circulating. It's almost like you have your small groups already.
Because today I had them pick, like they could free seat because they were doing different stations on videos, and Jamie and Veronica Arias were
Yeah.
together, and I had come by to like write some bear pause, and I heard Jamie translating
Mm-hmm.
for Veronica because I know she's got a large language load
Yeah,
that she's
and
working through.
she's been amazing. She came here as a newcomer from Guatemala, and she is incredible.
When did she come here?
Oh gosh, I want to say she came as a third or fourth grader.
Okay, so before COVID, but not
Yeah.
long before COVID.
She had, yes, her. I was teaching her sister. I remember that during COVID as a middle schooler, and she'd been here. It was her second year.
Oh, okay.
So they had been here 2 years before COVID, about a year.
Because I've got some real strong ones in there, like Jamie and Ashley,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
I've got Donovan and Veronica,
Yeah.
who are going to be on the
Yeah.
opposite end.
Well, they're Donovan came during the pandemic.
He did? Okay.
So I taught him during the pandemic, and Veronica and her sister I had a year before the pandemic, so they had gotten
Okay.
some background for sure, and I just adore her, both of them. All right, let's move on to kind of the models. I brought this back out again because I think this is going to be our kind of our checklist of where we're going and what's happening. And so let's I want you to just kind of self-assess where you're at. Just kind of just focus on learning targets right now, because that'll be a big thing too during your formal that we're talking about building lives targets.
Yeah, the first box I got.
I'll
The
mirror-
one.
I'm gonna mirror what you put
Oh,
so
okay.
I can know how you feel about yourself. So we did all 3 of these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're planning, yeah, I can push your seat.
It's on. I remember to change it on the board instead of leaving it up the whole week.
So I feel like you're planning with targets, which is great. How about the teaching of it?
I don't know if it would count as being referenced when I only do it at the beginning and then in the exit ticket.
So that might be
That
something.
might be.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
So we can put that one. That one tends to be a little harder to do.
Number 3 here we're going to be doing on Tuesday with the visuals, so that one's coming. I do the 4th one. And then this one's like, again, tied to if there's an exit ticket on it.
I think that probably goes with the one that read and referenced. So it's almost like, how do you embed that target throughout
Okay.
the lesson, so that it's not just a one and done in the beginning, but how do the kids really see that so that they can make sure that that target is unpacked, unwrapped, and continually the focus of the lesson, and that helps them stay on task as well. What I did is I just, I pulled something up. We had done a lot of work on, I call them shared learning targets. That's what my building prior to Boston called them, because you're sharing them with students. So it's kind of an old habit, but I think it's a cute one about how it's a shared process. And so I just pulled a video of a teacher who had done it, who I got permission from. I never share videos without asking. But she was, Rhonda had taught in where Sam is teaching, and she came in and you might have met her when she was working with Sam and Tegan. At the beginning of the school year, she was helping them get their books organized, possibly.
In fact, I would not have recognized
But
her.
she's a retired teacher who happened to teach sixth grade, and this is I pulled up a video that when Kayla and I were just thinking about teachers that were doing a lot with targets, she was. And so I just thought it'd be fun to pull it up and we could just see if there's any teacher moves that we could replicate if we liked or not. And I thought we could just watch it together, just the beginning part. You might get a kick out of it because it's sixth grade. And we can look at it together.
Oh, from a couple of years ago. Okay. Oh, this is the fall of before COVID.
Yeah.
So this is the last
So you
normal.
just get right. And these are not obviously your kids, but
Yeah.
kids who graduated last year.
Sixth grade? No, we would never say that to sixth grade. We don't play games.
And then she's gonna move into it, you can turn it off there. But we have just a few minutes left together. Notice and name anything that, that you're noticing that would be a teacher move that's worth remembering.
When she said that I added on to this from yesterday, so she's continuing, and whether she ran out of time or thought of something new or ran into confusions that she couldn't address that day, she added to it. She totally changed it. She just added to it and told them that she's like, hey, this was from yesterday, but, and then she was very specific and explained why, what, like, the most important facts, not just like random stuff. Because we have limited time, it would take months to be an expert. And she spent a lot more time on it than just having a student read it and defining, a word or two in there.
Those are great observations. I like what you said. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. What, based on kind of what you're thinking here, based on what we're looking at on this checklist, what you just saw, kind of modeled with Rhonda, what do you think would make sense for the next part of the action step?
The read and reference multiple times. So like on Tuesday, I'll have it at the beginning when they're just getting their documents, and so then they go read them, and then when they come back to home group where I've got red and you've got green and you've got yellow, I'll like stop and have somebody read it again. So yeah, so do it like beginning and middle instead of beginning and end. And then it's included in the exit ticket.
And then it's a focus of your lesson.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna stop typing and let you craft your action step then. And I always have like a what and how. What you're gonna work on and how you're gonna accomplish it.
I think I'm done.
Yes, the picture was good. Right. And then I put, when I'm kind of doing the observation and I'm thinking through things, I always just try to write out my questions and reflections. If you want to just take a moment to read these and see if there's anything that stands out that you want to talk aloud and reflect on.
The product is a CER, claim evidence reasoning.
Go ahead and type it
Oh,
there.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it right after each question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a way. I think it's easier. It's like we're having a conversation together. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm doing that for my action research class. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I changed it. I had to change
So you
it.
could match it.
Yeah.
to-
And I told them, I was like, y'all, it's the same. It's just
Yeah.
the letters are different, but you answer the question.
Yeah.
What helps you answer the question? How does it help you answer the question?
Yeah.
And repeat it with 2 pieces of evidence. 3, if you can get
And I
3.
use that. I use it. I just did that last night with the paper with claim evidence reading. I did 2. They gave us more. 2 is just enough.
Is this second bullet like in general or for this next like series of lessons?
It's just something to think about for the next series of lessons.
Okay.
It's probably an ongoing question. It's just something when I
What's the
took
cause and
that.
effect?
Yeah, when I took the training, they were like always thinking about like what students are learning. How do they? What are the major concepts and skills that they need to be walking away with from that learning? Yeah. we did a ton with essential questions, and I know that's in the, I looked up kind of the way the district, I like the way they did it. They put in some really cool things, but I'm just wondering your philosophy about essential questions. I thought they were pretty important in social studies.
Well, yeah, because they're bigger picture
Mhm.
things rather than like specific
Yeah.
people and dates and stuff.
Well, and that gets, I put it on there, that rigor, inquiry, and thinking, and then it gives them something to talk about that's juicy and rich.
Oh, calendar.
Sorry, I'm probably have to get going soon.
So the wise cause and effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. I also like the idea of putting pictures on the target too, more visuals. That's great, Ashley, thank you. And then the last thing is really, I guess we're kind of on the cycle again for observations and for, I'm wondering with fall break, how we fall in for another observation, because I know we do like these every other. But we'll look at our calendars. I know you're getting observed formally.
I'm getting observed
So-
third block on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, and I think it makes sense to try to follow this pattern again when we come back from break, because
Okay.
we've already had a formal next week. It's right before break. So if you're comfortable, we can try to set something up when we come back.
Okay.
Would that be cool?
For the week that we get back from break? Yeah, that's fine.
Let's do that.
I'll put the week
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
October
Yeah.
24.
So if you want to take a look at your calendar again when you're planning, and then
I
just
already know it can't be, because in 7th grade they're doing the COGAT
Mm,
on
Okay.
that 27th.
so we could probably either do different grade level
Yeah.
or so maybe
So not
yeah.
27th for
Mhm.
7th.
and be thinking about which group you want my eyes on
Okay.
for this particular target. But I know you need to go be with kids, but that'll be our next step. And then just let me know how the formal went. If there's anything I can support you with based
Okay.
on that feedback too, we can kind of incorporate it into our coaching together. Yeah. If that sounds cool, and then I'll put in that informal for you by the work day. Work on it sometime next week. Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great, Ashley.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you have a great weekend